Hey everybody, what's going on? Eric here, and you are looking at the blue Chibson Les Paul Custom. Now, I did a video with this guitar not too long ago, and basically comparing it with a Gibson traditional. Now, there is no comparison. You guys watched the video. Some of you guys thought maybe I did some upgrades with this thing. And then made a video comparing it with the Gibson. No, this is bone stock from China. There is no upgrades. Nothing has been changed on it. In fact, I didn't even do a setup on this guitar. The action height is pretty decent on this thing. It's not very high at all, but the action height at the first fret is pretty high. The neck on this thing, I didn't even add any relief to it or nothing. The neck on this thing is straight as hell. So once I take these strings off, it's probably going to give me a back bow. So I have my flat edge here, and I have my rocker because I have a feeling I'm going to end up doing some fret leveling on this thing, possibly. Even though when I look down the neck, all the frets kind of blend into each other. Now again, there has been no upgrades to this guitar. Nothing has been changed. It is bone stock. Now the only thing that I have done already with this guitar is removed the knobs, which is fairly easy. When the knobs are in place, use like a wire tie, you know, plastic wire tie, get up underneath there and kind of pry on both sides of it, keep going back and forth, and eventually these just pop right off. Not a big deal. So I'm hoping those knobs will line up good with the knurl that is on the new knobs, and everything will work out fine. So what's in store for this guitar? Well, basically everything that's electronic is getting replaced, and all the hardware is getting replaced. The only thing that may be left on this guitar is the tailpiece, the pickup rings, and truss rod cover. That's it. Everything else is going to go bye-bye. So right now, what I want to do is I have two cameras going over here. One that is my cell phone that's recording the audio as well. Now the cell phone has stereo microphones on it, and because of the angle of the cell phone, it's probably going to pick me up a little bit more on one channel than the other. Hopefully I can correct that when I do the editing of this video. Now again, on this guitar, the frets are like really nice. There's nothing sharp on the edges. They've been filed back pretty damn good. This guitar here, the tuners on it are shit. They are a wannabe Grover tuner, and I gotta tell you, the plating on them is shit. I mean, they got like chewed up marks around the edges over here. It just, I don't know. They're real crappy. When you turn them, they feel like they're grinding. They're supposed to be meant to, just like this guitar is supposed to be meant to mimic a Gibson guitar. Well, these are meant to be mimicked as a copy of Grover's. You know, that's all I can say. Now, I'm going to use this guy here to unravel the strings, which is, you know, kind of slow and makes a lot of noise. And like I said, it sounds like it's falling apart. Now, because this neck is pretty much fucking straight as hell right now, I never did any setup on this guitar or changed anything with it. Kind of did the comparison without changing anything that was on this thing. Now, once I get these strings off here, this neck might go into a little bit of a back bow, so I'll have to adjust that to flatten it out again. And then I want to check the frets. And the first thing I'm going to do is replace these tuners. This low E string is stuck in the nut. There you go. Alright, so take off the truss rod cover. Very good way to find out if this is a fake guitar or not. Remove the truss rod cover. You will see behind it there is no nut to adjust the truss rod. It is basically an Allen screw. And right now I can see that the screw is pretty much stripped. So wedge this thing up a little bit and see if I can pull the screw out this way. There you go. Alright, so that's that. Not a lot of meat right here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this nut. And what I want to do when I pop this nut off of here is I want to remove or cut the lacquer that is around the nut when you sprayed it. This way I could break that connection between the body or the neck and the nut, and it won't ship out anywhere. So just using a brand new razor blade, go ahead and score between the nut and the body. Like I said, breaking that lacquer. Go ahead and do the same right here. And do the same right here. Oh, sorry, I'm out of the camera. And do the same thing on this side as well. And then let's see how much glue they used to put this nut on. Now, let's see if my thinking was correct about this back bow here. Oh yeah. So let's pop that nut off. And what I'm going to use to pop the nut off is basically one of my leveling tools. So you just slide this thing over and go pop, 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 and it's off. Simple as that. Took some of the fretboard with it, not much. The replacement nut that I have is a 42 millimeter nut, which is basically the same thing as this one here. All the string spacing is the same, everything is basically the same. I am going to have to cut this in order to make it fit the guitar, but that'll be kind of like one of the last things that I do right now. So I want to clean up this area over here. There is quite a bit of lacquer sticking up, so I am going to have to scrape that down a little bit without disrupting the lacquer that's on the body. So what I'm going to do is use the razor blade and kind of level that off a little bit. I use it as a file. And what I'm doing is I'm just scraping off the lacquer that is right on this edge between the nut and the headstock. Just leveling it off. Because they use quite a bit of lacquer in here. And it feels pretty good. And then I want to see the fit of the new nut. Yeah, I'm going to have to do some filing over here. Or maybe I can do it with the razor blade. I think the old nut broke right here. Oh, that's much better. Alright, so the nut pretty much fits right into space, and I can see I am going to have to level that down quite a bit. So what I want to do to clean this out, get all the glue out of it, got some files over here. There is a file that is pretty much straight all the way down. That'll be this one right here. And this will clean up any glue that's left over from the old nut. And you want to try to get even pressure all the way down this file, because this file does bend. So if you're pushing on it like right here with your index finger, it is going to make this bow a little bit. So kind of want to give it even filing all the way down. It feels nice and smooth. It's not bad at all. It's a little bit on the side here. It's a little bit high. Feel it. See how this nut fits in there now. You don't want this nut rocking back and forth. Like right now it kind of has a little bit of a rocking back and forth, so that could be binding over here, not letting this thing sit into place very well. So I'll square that off a little bit, get rid of whatever's there. And that may have fit in a lot tighter. Let's see if this truss rod works. And I believe it'll be a 4mm wrench, Allen key. And it is. Alright, let's see. Lefty loosey, righty tighty, right? Alright, the truss rod is loose. Let's see where I sit with the, how straight it is. I got a major back bow in it right now. And I am completely flat. There's no light and no rocking coming through there. Alright, let's see what we got as far as how level these frets are. So I picked up one of these to do a fret leveling off of eBay, and basically just a rocker. So I go over here and kind of check out. So this is going to need a minor fret leveling. It's not too bad. It's not that bad, but it's bad enough to do it for a leveling. So I'm going to make sure that this is pretty much where it's supposed to be before I go ahead and do it. You know, check twice, measure twice, cut once. You know, one of those things. I do not see no light or anything coming out from underneath this thing. Alright, so like I said, what I wanted to do first was change out all these cheap ass fucking wannabe Grover tuners. And that's what we're going to do. So I believe it's a 10mm wrench to loosen up, yep, all these screws or nuts. Now the nice thing about this is the holes are already drilled out to where I need them to be. Unlike the slash guitar. The slash guitar, I'm going to have to drill out those holes a little bit more. Alright, flip this over. Make sure nothing happened with the neck when I was adjusting the truss rod. That seems to be good. And then I'll show you a close-up of these guys when I open up the package for a new one. Get rid of all the dust. Alright, new set of Grovers. So let's take a look at the Grovers that are real and the Grovers that are fake. First off, fake Grovers have like a number 1 on the back. These guys here have a PW2 is what it says on the back, and you can kind of see by, where's the camera at? The plating on these guys is they're not as shiny as a regular Grover would be. So, crapola. Crapola. Sorry about that. I'll never do that again. So let's get the hardware out of the bags for these, which they come with new screws and washers. And the washers on these, compared to the washers on these, I don't know if you could tell this or not, but the washers on the Grovers have a taper on the edges. The Chinese ones don't have a taper, they're just rounded. Alright, so let's see, is there a difference in the screws? And the Grover screws are a little bit shorter, but everything should line up with no troubles. Yep, looks like everything's going to line up. So what I want to do first is I actually want to polish the top of the headstock. Boy, I feel so much lighter up here. I want to polish this top of this headstock. Make sure the neck has no twist or anything in it. Get some of the scratches and stuff that I end up putting up here off. So simple, just a microfiber cloth. A little bit of my Scratch Doctor polish. Kind of go over this a little bit. Nice and shiny, no scratches on it. I'd say I'm happy with that. This puppy over. Another thing about the Grover tuners too, the actual real Grovers, there is a little bit of a weight difference here. Going over all the screws, making sure they're all tight. Alright, so now we got Grover tuners. And man, these feel so much better turning them. A lot smoother. They don't feel grindy like these guys do. These guys feel grindy. Especially like right there, and then so I'm turning this one here, and as I turn it, it grabs right about there, makes it a little bit harder to turn, and then slides over that. And then these things are loose. All these posts are loose. They're not loose on the drawers. So that is done. Now I want to remove the electronics out of this, so that'll be next.